And hello. How are you? I am Big Meach, and this is a Big Meach moment. Okay. Listen, I'm about to say something that I know is probably going to piss some of you off, and that's okay. In this discussion, this is all about wanting to get to understand some things and trying to get to the root of this particular problem. I have been stewing over this. I have been really stewing over this for the last 48 hours. Okay. Um, and because it started with Whoopi Goldberg's comments, right? And yesterday, being February 1st, the very first day of Black History Month, it just completely fucking unnerved me that usually when we're starting to take on Black history, that we had to be preempted on The View, and now we had to go into this cultural uh educational moment because folks believe that Whoopi Goldberg had misspoke. Folks were upset. Folks, they want to call cancel culture. They want her fired, and all of the things that the people do when they got computer courage, okay, and keyboard strikes and carrying on. Y'all want to sit down there and do your thing, okay. But I'm going to raise a few questions that I hope we could get the answers to. Now, let me start off by saying this: I'm not Jewish. I don't necessarily understand the Jewish culture because I've not been all that exposed to it. I respect it, and by in no way, shape, style, form, or fashion is anything that I'm about to say is going to demean or downgrade or downplay anything about the Holocaust or Auschwitz, because we all know that it happened. We all know that it's real. We all know that 6 million people died heinously and brutally. We know that to be fact. We know that to be truth. We know that because we have people who have been survivors. We have descendants of the survivors who are able to tell the stories. And we're able to move to be able to go forth and to continue to teach that history and herstory. Okay. So by no means am I saying that. What I am going to question is this: what about Whoopi Goldberg's statements when she said that this was not about race? The Holocaust was not about race. It was about evil, and it was about the inhumane treatment of one person to another. Okay? When she went on further on her apology tour, as I'm gonna call it, and went on Stephen Colbert and carried on, she said something that I thought was very interesting. She said, we as Black folks, when we talk about race in this country, we come from a different perspective because the race conversation has always been skin color. So we come in at a disproportionate effort, okay? And we come into this game a little differently, okay? And I'm going to agree with her on that because we do. I'm also going to say this. She said, when it comes down to the whole understanding of the Jewish culture, what we need to do is find out how and why this particular group of people became a race versus a religion, because that's the part that gets me. Because she said, based on skin color, this is white folks and white folks. Okay. And unless you did further investigation, we did not know who was Jewish and who were not. Not to mention there were Black Jews and Asian Jews and et cetera, right? So that has stuck in my craw because I'm like, okay, on that particular note, let's do this, because only thing I know about Jewish culture is that y'all pray differently. You got your little yarmulkes to carry on, honey, and things of that nature. I know y'all have bar mitzvahs and all this, that, and the other for coming. You know, when the kids are trying to celebrate, you know, they're coming of age, and you know, going into adulthood, or you know, coming into their pubescent stages and carrying on. I'm not necessarily sure on what the religion teaches. I'm not necessarily sure of what it is about your aesthetics that make you who you are as a people. Okay, all I know is, yeah, we hear it all the time: Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics. And every time it came across that way, it's always been a strong religious faith. I'm trying to understand is, during all this time, and it's been brought, you know, on the View, they brought the expert on, and he got the book, and so now we doing this educational thing, and I became offended. Can I just be honest? I became very offended by it, and I became offended because I felt like this was the same they did to WHOOPI what Roland Martin did to Wendy Williams. Remember when Wendy Williams was talking about the whole thing of the NAACP, and you know, her talking like she does, and she said, you know, wow, the NAACP, the National Advancement of Colored People, we still colored people, you know, and she did that question like, okay, we've come this far, what's up, you know, and folks got outrageous, they got mad, you know. I think Wendy said, well, where's the advancement for white people kind of thing, you know, and she was trying to make the comparison. Now, y'all know Wendy is messy as fuck, okay, and some of that was just plain old Wendy talk, okay, but what ended up happening, folks got upset. Roland Martin ended up calling her, to the fact that the very next day, Roland ended up on the show to educate Wendy on what this was and why the NAACP got started and blah, 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 and the importance of it and this, that, and the other. And I was upset with Wendy because I was like, okay, you brought him on to educate folks about it, but you didn't stand your ground, because Miss Thing, your point was, though it may have been I won't say misguided, it may have been out of ignorance or too progressive, because of the thing of it. Her point was, we're so busy talking about the NAACP, and you know, we've not been called color folks in a long time. Where's the progression? Okay, that's what I got out of it. Now, she did it in a very messy way, but that's what I got out of it. And she backed down. She doubled down on her own shit instead of standing for what she knew she believed in. But what it was, she got sponsors, and she had to appease the sponsors and make sure everybody was happy and this, that, and the other. Here's what this is here. Now fast forward to now. Okay, here we are. WHOOPI come with her apology to it, because everybody blasted her emails and Twitters and carrying on and cussing her out and this, that, and the third, and blah, the yakking. So now she came on, and she did this on her own, that she came with the apology, because she's like, oh, okay, my intention was not to bring this about. My intention was to have a conversation. And okay, apparently, you know, this, that, and the other, and it made me look at race differently. Okay, now I know she said that either on Stephen Colbert or somebody's late night show, because she said the information that I got made me look at stuff a little differently, and that's important. Okay, so I'm like, okay, fine. So it made me question, and it made me go into this, because I'm like, why is it here that all of a sudden, you know, the world shut down because she said something inappropriate or misguided or misspoke or whatever concerning the Jewish people? Because see, this is where I got really, really, really in my feelings. Because every time Black folks talk about, we talk about slavery, we talk about racism in this country, we talk about Black folks being disenfranchised. Anytime we talk about, we are sitting up here arguing about fucking critical race theory that is not a goddamn subject in schools right now, but y'all are creating laws about a foreseen subject, okay, that is not necessarily real just yet. It's not real the way that you think. It was called race relations when we were in school. When we took geography and we took world history and carrying on, we dealt with race relations. It wasn't called critical race theory now. That whole curriculum now doesn't go until the college level. Okay, where you get to sit down and critically think about the racial ties in this country. And it made me go here because I'm like, okay, well, what are Jewish people? What is Jewish? What is Jewish? Because all of my life, I know it to be a religion because anytime that it has come up, it has been a religious organization with very powerful people, kind of like the Catholics. Because see, you say Catholic, honey, the Catholic organizations have the Catholics and the Jews, honey, what run this country. Okay, as far as monetariness is concerned, as far as religious upbringing and carrying on. As a matter of fact, is Catholicism that Christianity is based on. Okay, it's not Baptist and Kojic and any of those things that are marginally or considered to be ethnic, because that's where gospel singing come from. Anytime you're talking about the Baptist church or Church of God in Christ or Pentecostal, anytime you start to break down Christianity in those other doctrines of religious teachings or whatever, that's a little too black for folks. But the idea of Christianity in this country is Catholicism. Okay, everybody understand the Pope, and this, that, and the other. If it's not Catholicism, darling, it's Judaism. Okay, and it's Judaism, and then comes what's the children? What's the children? The children. The children, honey. Wait a minute. What's the children's name? What's the children? Oh shit. Muslim. Thank you. Okay, the Muslim children. Okay. Then we have that. So basically we have three major sects of religious institutions that primarily are the dominant forces here within on the globe. Now, of course, everything breaks down and you got subsections of this, that, and the other. However, all of my life, and I'll be 52 next month, I have known Jewish to be a religion. Okay, now here's something that I found out as I'm understanding something. Okay, because I wanted to go and get this. I'm like, where did all this shit start? So basically, the whole idea of Jewish people being a race, okay, came out of the whole Auschwitz thing. Okay, the Germans and stuff had determined that the Jewish folks were a race of people. Okay, and this started to go on to the whole master race kind of thing. This is where the whole idea of eugenics come in, where now we're trying to create a master race of people. This is where out of the whole eugenics and Holocaust nightmares come the whole blonde hair, blue eyed did it. That there was Hitler's thing in order to make the whole superior race of people, blah, blah, blah. Anything that wasn't blonde hair, blue eye became inferior. Okay, so this is where that come from. So then I started looking up. I said, well, wait a minute, because see, everybody keep talking about being anti-Semitic. And every time I heard that, I was like, well, what? You know, I never really, and I'm gonna say this out loud, I had never really looked up the word until now. How about that? Because every time I've heard it, I've always known that it was something to mean Jewish. You're anti-Semitic. Well, then I started to say, well, what the fuck is a Semite? Because if you're anti-Semite, then what the hell is a Semite, right? And that got me to thinking. So just now, for the very first time ever in my entire life, I looked up the word Semite. Okay? And according to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the definition of a Semite is, and they have, there's a 1A and B, and there's a 2, okay? And the first 1A says, a member of any of a number of peoples of ancient southwestern Asia, including the Akkadians, the Phoenicians, Hebrews, and Arabs. Okay. B says a descendant of these people. Okay? And definition number 2 says a member of a modern people speaking a Semitic language. Now, what is this? What is Semitic? Okay. So now we went over here to find out what the hell is Semitic or Semitic. Okay. Definition number 1 of Semitic, still Merriam-Webster. Okay. It says of or relating to or constituting a subfamily of the Afro-Asiatic language family. That includes Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, and Amharic. I think that's how you pronounce it. Amharic. Amharic or Amharic. I think it is how it's pronounced. Definition number 2 says of, relating to, or characteristics of the Semites. Okay, so that took us right back to Semite. Number 3, that word says by itself, it just says Jewish. Okay. Then when you look up Jewish from the Merriam-Webster's, it says of, relating to, or characteristics of the Jews. So how do you define a word with the word, right? That has always been, how do you define a word with the word? Okay. Now, they don't give you a link to find out what is Jew or whatever. So, you see where I'm going with this. So as we go over here, then it got me to thinking, I said, okay, now what struck me is the whole Afro-Asiatic language family. Okay. Now, we all know Afro, I don't give a damn where you from, honey. Afro always meant black, from the continent of Africa. Okay, and we into those particular things. So now it got me thinking, okay, this becomes a deeper discussion, because if a Semite is someone who comes from or speaks one of those Afro-Asiatic languages or from those particular families, then that means all of these people are people of color, correct? Correct. So that means relatively, all of this is meaning that the Jews have been considered people of color in some regard. Okay? So if that's where we're going to go with this, then that means that on that particular definition or the context clues that come from that, then that means that the Jews have been seen as people of color. At least the treatment has been according to what we know to be slavery and carrying on. And I found this to be very interesting because the guy, I can't call his name. Y'all watch The View. If you didn't, go look it up. He was sitting up there saying that a lot of the slavery practices and things and the techniques and stuff used came from Auschwitz. And I was like, no, that should be the other way around, because the things and the concentration camps and carrying on in Auschwitz, as he paid attention, he said that was 70 years ago. Okay, in fact, it's a little bit longer than that, because Auschwitz was in the 1940s, or 1940 to 1942, and the concentration camps got shut down in 1945. So between 1940 and 1945, we had all of these 6 million people that were heinously burned alive and killed, and all of that simply because they were Jewish. But that there was about 80 years ago. Okay, but what got me in my crawl is you talking about 80 years versus 400 that we as Black folks and the descendants of Black folks have been talking about when it comes down to race in this country, when it comes down to politics in this country. And if this is going to be the race talk, see, here's where it gets deep for me. If we're having the race talk, then why is it that we haven't had Jewish folks step up to the plate when we had the Black Lives Matter movement, when we had the people of color and carrying on saying that racism is real? Because if you're relating to us on that issue to say that the Holocaust was about race, then damn it, where is your support when it comes down to dealing with race issues in this fucking country? Why is it that we're fighting each other the way that we're fighting each other when it comes down to race relations here, when we don't even know how to relate to one another? You want to, I'm telling you, It pissed me off that all of a sudden now we got to sit down here and be educated about race. And the way how they came on WHOOPI is like, bitch, you don't know anything about race. How the fuck dare you sit up there and go racism to racism because you Jew and this is black, and we sit up here bumping heads about what the fuck racism is? Really? What made her statement untrue? The fact that you said that she said it wasn't about racism, it was about the inhumane treatment of people. Is that, because that's what she said. Is that what you said that this was about? Or are you going more specific? Because the German folks flat out said that this here is the race of people of Jews, and they made that shit up. They made it up because they were upset. The Germans were upset because they felt that the Jews helped them lose the damn war. So they made it up. Now the question is this. Over all these damn 70 years, from all the survivors, from the descendants, for those who believe in the richness of their culture, for those who stand firm for what they believe in, for those who hold true to the creed of their people, and for the sanctity of what the culture is, why have you not corrected that all these years? Why have there not been a discussion to say we're not a race of people? Our faith is our faith. Why has this not been an open discussion to correct that? Why? That's what got me in my crawl. That's what has me in my crawl. Because damn it, how it is asinine to have a discussion where both of us stay in the same motherfucking boat, and yet you gonna sit up here and tell me because you sitting in the front of the boat, or I'm in the middle, or that was in the back of the boat, that I ain't got no business in the motherfucking boat. Or you gonna tell me, oh, no, this boat ain't, this the racism boat. No, this ain't made of wood, this is fiberglass. Bitch, I'm in the boat. I'm in the boat. I'm looking at it. I'm touching. I'm feeling it. I'm helping you with the oars, bitch. We running this motherfucker together. How dare you tell me or come up on this thing as if nobody knew what the fuck this was supposed to be? That's my problem. And then, wait a minute. Let me pull up this damn statement because ABC got on my nerves with this one. This here, ABC statement, the statement that was made, honey, there's a line in here that just got me. Okay, there's a line in here that got me. Let me please. I should have had this pulled up, but I've been sitting up here. I've been trying to rest because I know I got donut factory duties, and I got to go in tonight and go to work. And I was trying to rest, but I was stewing. I wasn't gonna do this because I'm like, okay, But oh shit. Who was this? No. You know what? What bothers me? Oh, I got my ad blocker on. Okay, wait a minute. Because you know sometimes, like some of the papers, like the LA Times and the Washington Post, sometimes they won't let you read the shit until you subscribe to their damn paper. Okay. Here it is. Wait a minute. Hold on. I want to get the quote. No, that's her damn apology. No, I want all of this Miss Things. I want all of her shit. I don't want the second part of this. There it is. Here's Miss Kim Godwin, president of ABC News. She says this. She called Goldberg's comments wrong and harmful, quote unquote. And then she says, quote, while WHOOPI has apologized, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments, end quote. Okay. Then she continued, she said, quote, the entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, friends, families, and communities, end quote. Okay. Why the fuck that pissed me off? because wait a minute, I think that's the black woman. Okay, I think she's a black woman. Okay, the first black woman. Yeah, she is. She's the first black woman to become the president of ABC News. Okay, okay, right. She's the first black woman to ever do this. And bitch, you sit down here and you say, I want you to take time to go and reflect on what you said and the impact of your words. You couldn't have just said, girl, we're going to give you time off because you pissed folk off. And rather than take the hit, we're going to just make you disappear for a minute. Now we're going to give you time to reflect and understand the impact of your words to folks. Bitch, what? Oh. And then here's something else. Now this may have nothing to do with the thing, but here's something else to consider, because I bet dimes to donuts that this bitch is younger than WHOOPI. Okay? And I'm saying bitch respectfully, because right now, yeah, you pissing me off, ho. Okay. Okay. And I'm almost certain that she's a little younger than WHOOPI. Okay. And why am I making that a point? Because bitch, you're not gonna sit down here and tell me something. I'm older than you, and yet you're gonna try to school me on some shit that I done been through way before you were born. You understand? Now, this doesn't mean that I got it right. This doesn't mean that I'm an expert. It doesn't mean that I can't learn. But what you're not gonna do is throw this in my face as if I don't know shit about it. I want you to sit back and reflect. The fuck? Really? Have you watched this woman's career and all the hits she has taken in her career for dating white men, for dating Jewish men, and carrying on, for the stances that she has taken because folks didn't realize or understand her mouth? They didn't like her mouth then. Baby, they couldn't stand her when she was young. She's a little bit calmer now than what she was when she was thriving as the movie star. Okay. So I take issue to this, and I want us to take and move forward beyond this, because see, this whole conversation here, we have now seen what politics do. And if anyone have not seen the power of the Jewish community, how they acted immediately, I don't know if I'm mad or if I'm jealous. Because see, we as black folks, this is the kind of on-site shit that we need to have. This is the kind of stuff that our black community, the power to the people, now this is where I agree with them. The power to the people to always say, when it comes down to black issues and blackness and carrying on, and our culture and shit has been done wrong or whatever, everybody tiptoeing, dancing around. We do a whole fucking figure 8 before we can get shit done. But anytime anybody else, whether it be the Jewish folks, whether it be the alphabet children, okay, whenever something comes down, they act immediately to shut that shit down and be like, no, that's not what we're standing for, and you're going to get this right. Okay? I don't know if I'm upset about it, because like hell, this is February, and I know on The View they do a whole a tribute to Black History. I didn't even watch the full program because I think they end up doing it later. But here we are at Black History Month, and yet the first thing we got to do was talk about Jewish issues. Really? Because now you got to educate me on why Jewish is a race, and it's not. It was determined to be a race by somebody who hated you. It's determined to be a race by folks who killed your people. This is why we don't have a fucking identity. Black folks don't have, every fucking 25 years or something, we coming up with a new goddamn name. Why? Because we don't have identity outside of saying we are Americans. Those of us born in this country, only thing we know is that we are Americans, and by the color of my goddamn skin, honey, is how you treat me because you label me. With Jewish folks, we don't know you are Jewish if we just look at that skin tone. I know if you're Italian by looking at your skin tone, because Italians are darker than Caucasians. But yet here's the dichotomy to all that. Based on your skin color, if nobody knew who the hell you were, and if nobody took up linguistics to understand what's Jewish and carrying on and what's Latin based on your name, won't nobody know that you are non-white. Won't nobody know that, because in this country, only thing they see is this goddamn skin. So what WHOOPI said had value to it. It had merit. It had merit. But I challenge you, why have you not corrected that all this time? Why have you allowed yourself to be labeled by your oppressor? Because ain't that what y'all said to us? Y'all say we use the N-word all the goddamn time. How do you use that word? If you say it's a bad word, how do you identify yourself as that? Well, how do you still identify yourself as a race and you are not? You let these folks say that you were, and nobody has corrected it all this damn time. Or am I wrong? If there has been a movement, please show me. Educate me, because I don't know your culture. I don't know your culture. Educate me on where the ills are. You understand? Because the only thing I know is this. Black folks who have become Jewish, honey, I know they caught a hell of a lot of heat because they were Jewish. It's as if anytime black folks who did not, who I won't say Jewish don't denounce Jesus. Jewish, from what I'm understanding of Judaism, and y'all correct me because I don't know, but from what I'm understanding, y'all don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Y'all think he's, he came down as one of God's sons and things, but he wasn't the Messiah. Christianity say Jesus is the Messiah. Okay, and one thing I know about black folks is this: anytime that anybody goes up against Jesus and want to denounce Jesus as the Savior and as the this and the that, there's a whole hill of beans. Okay, there's a whole hill of beans. So I know black folks who have been labeled as Jews had a cross-eyed. We got side-eyed and carrying on, and they got side-eyed. Okay, you wasn't part of the clique. You wasn't part of the crew. How dare you denounce Jesus? And yet, that Christianity is a whole religion given to us by our oppressor. How about that? See, so we got the similarities, honey. Oppression is oppression is oppression, honey. The semantics may be different on how we were persecuted in it, but oppression is oppression is oppression. So what the fuck are we fighting about? What the fuck are you mad about? Oh, this was all about race. You want to get up in arms about this being about race. But here we are talking about critical race theory and everything about this country, about voting and this, that, and the other. And not now one of you motherfuckers are on the forefront with blacks and things who say, yes, this is about race. None of you are out here in this motherfucking fight like that. But now we got to sit up here and listen to you bitch about somebody saying, oh, this wasn't about race. Now it's important. Now it's important because you want folks to know that 6 million folks have died of most heinous tragedy. But you're 70 years old, darling. We've been doing this for 400. So how is it that we sit up here battling about shit? It's asinine. It is fucking asinine. And hell yes, I'm offended. And if you are about anything that I've said up in here, you can always call me. You can always get down here. We can have this damn discussion. Because like I said, I don't know your culture. I don't know your culture. And apparently you don't know mine either, outside of what you see on the goddamn television. So we're neck and neck. We are neck and neck. But if you are not a race, then why have you not did the fight to change that shit? Because most of us only know you as a religious organization. Okay, we know you as a religious organization because, see, and as I was starting to say before, you get all the advances, honey, because of your skin color. Because, like I said, nobody knows that you're Jewish unless they take phonetics and learn that your last name is, understand, or because you wear your goddamn yarmulke. You understand? So if this is about education, then, darling, all of us need to be sitting at this table to understand what the hell this is. Because I'm not going to let my sister WHOOPI go down like that. Now, she may not have been the best at it or whatever, and may have been to your liking. But what she said wasn't wrong. You just want to jump on this bandwagon. How dare you say this wasn't about race? Now it's about race because we're talking about your history. But when we're talking about racism in this country, you're not at the table for this fucking fight. You're nowhere at this motherfucking table. So either you're going to come to this motherfucking table with your weaponry and we're going to do this shit together, or you can shut the fuck up. How about that? Because right now, honey, no. And what you're not going to do is continue to battle with us and say what is and what is not racism, and you ain't bringing nothing else to the table. To all of the survivors, all of you survivors out there who are still living, now how about that? We need you to continue to tell your stories, honey. We don't know what that was because we didn't live it. My grandparents and my great-grandmother was a slave. I tell y'all that all the time. My great-grandmother had a brand in her back. She was branded a slave. And I knew my great-grandmother, and I know some of the stories. I don't know them all. So I need to understand that. These are the stories that need to be passed down. These are the stories so that we can sit down there and correct it. Y'all need to sit up there and say they told us that we were a race, that we were not. We were organized, yes. But they thought that we were not a race, and they treated us that because they were trying to create the superior race. That's where the Aryan nation and shit come from. That's a German thing. That's the children. That's what white supremacy. That's where that comes from. It comes out of that. As far as what we know it to be now, but hell, when we were slaves and they were traveling and bringing us over here and our own people were selling us all year, because we do have that for those of you who don't know history. Okay, because it was all about the dollar. Okay, it wasn't necessarily about white supremacy wasn't defined like that. Okay, but they thought because they were a little bit more civilized or whatever and not understanding culture that they were a better people. Okay, that they were a better people. The whole idea about being a lily white woman, honey, in my bed with my bonbons and carrying on eating bonbons comes from their whole style, because white women were not seen as people. They were objects and property. They were there to propagate the line. Men were there to have children so they could say that they were men to keep their line going. Women wasn't damn property. Why do you think we got women's suffrage in 1920 when women were fighting for their own rights? So these stories, for those of you who are survivors, y'all need to teach this, and then let's teach this damn thing right. If you are not an ethnic group, you are a religious group, then let's change that, because most of us only know you as religious folks. And if you are ethnic, honey, then you show getting over on a lot of us can sit down there and say, okay, white supremacy, you part of it. A lot of us can claim that, because what have you done to stop it? What have you done to stop it? Especially when you getting all the heat about having all the money. Jews got all the money. They control the media. They control this. They control that. I know that y'all tired of all that bullshit. So what have you done to combat it? I'm gonna leave that right there. I'm gonna leave that right there. Y'all, like I said, y'all may not like it, and carrying on, it may cause a lot of controversy. But at this particular point, maybe it should. Maybe it should. I'm Big Meach, and this is a Big Meach moment.